The Truth the Girls.
Hi everyone, it's Truth the Girl Sonia here, or should I say homeschooling mama Sonia here. I'm starting to understand why do homeschooling mamas have this like crunchy granola look so often? Now I know. It's because we don't have time to put goop on our face. So big news here in Quebec on the autism parenting front. There's an article in our local paper, The Gazette. Parents to file human rights complaints over province's lack of autism services. Parents are getting together and mounting a class action lawsuit against the government. I want to read you a little bit of this article. Parents who are exhausted, stressed out, and depressed from taking care of their autistic children say Quebec is failing their children and their families. I have no life, no work, no social life, and there is stress in our marriage. Sound familiar? So says a mom of 2 kids on the autism spectrum. She had to pay $3,000 to have her children's autism diagnosed privately because there was a 2-year waiting list in the public system. If we didn't get a diagnosis, we couldn't get services. You know what? We went down that road too. From the time we started to ask, really push for a diagnosis when he was like 5, we then paid for a private assessment when he was 6, which it didn't work out because he was so uncooperative. She couldn't actually do the testing. And then eventually it was like another year later when he was 7 and a half, he was finally diagnosed through the public system. And that's because there was a rush on it, and we happened to be one of the first to get diagnosed through the CLSC. Yeah, we had to go through this huge rigmarole. Like, we even hospitalized him for 4 days just to expedite the process. Because we called up the hospital and they're like, well, if he's over 5 years old, it has to go through the school. And then of course the school did nothing. It was not easy, really not easy to get him diagnosed. Yes, it takes a long time. Because of the waiting list, many parents have to pay for private services. And the financial burden on families is immense, true. Suing denounced the lack of services for severely autistic teenagers, saying it has a devastating impact on their development. So it's not only like the kids on the high functioning end like my son who have trouble getting services, even the ones who are more severely affected can't get help. Parents say they face many obstacles when trying to get care and access to professionals who are trained in dealing with autistic children. Many schools are not equipped to deal with autistic children, and a lack of individualized therapeutic care leads to autistic teenagers becoming aggressive and acting out. Yes, this is where it was heading with our son, because he wasn't getting the right kind of help. It was really making things a lot worse, and he was becoming aggressive at school. And speaking of another mother, a lack of educational resources forced her to homeschool her son after staff in 3 high schools were unable to deal with an autistic child with behavioral issues. Yes, same here. That's what happened to us. She says, I had to become my child's therapist. We are competent women who have had to stay home with our children, and we have no life. It's true. It's really hard to do much else, you know, when you're homeschooling, especially a kid with special needs. Like many, I can't afford the thousands of dollars for private speech or occupational therapy, and my child has lost precious time to be functional like other children her age. This is systemic discrimination against children. Foniemi, the executive director of the Center for Research Action on Race Relations, said his organization would assist parents with their legal complaints to the Human Rights Commission. Quebec's record on the rights of children, women, and people with disabilities needs to be scrutinized because austerity and indifference has left many children and their parents behind, he said. So what's happening is they're launching a class action lawsuit, apparently through the Human Rights Commission, to tell the government, you know, this is not okay, that you're not providing services. And especially in the school system, this has been our experience, that there just aren't people who are really properly trained to deal with autism. And there are some special schools, but it's not like you can just sign them up and they just go. It's hard to get into. Often you get refused, really limited amount of places. And yeah, it's not like you just have a lot of options. And in our case, like I've mentioned in my other videos, our son has been through 4 community schools, plus 2 years in a hospital day program. No, please, please, Gunner. See, this is why I don't make videos, because like I get interrupted all the time. So where was I? Oh, completely lost my train of thought. Silly me. I thought, oh, he's on the iPad. I have a few minutes. Maybe I can give you my thoughts on this class action lawsuit. Oh, the Jewish. Yes. Well, you see, there are only two places where they have day programs for children with behavioral problems, not including like the special schools where you have to have an autism diagnosis to get in, like to Giant Steps. So if you don't have a diagnosis, you can't get into any of those special schools. Certainly not the autism schools. No, 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 no. No. I said no. You have to take it away. I don't want to see it. Please. Well, now I lost my train of thought again. You can't get into the special schools unless you already have a diagnosis. My son had none. You can't get into the autism schools unless you have an autism diagnosis, which he definitely didn't have. Getting a diagnosis can take a couple of years. Getting into a school after you get the diagnosis can take another 2 years. So we had a 6-year-old who had an emergency situation. We can't wait 4 or 5 years before we, put him somewhere because he could not be in school. At the time, just sending him home would not have been a solution either because we didn't know what to do with him either. So when you have a lot of behavioral problems, there are a couple of day programs. There's one, the Douglas Hospital, which is the psychiatric hospital. And there's the one at the Jewish General Hospital Child Psychiatry Department. They have a day program. So those were the options, and the Jewish is the one that's downtown. So yeah, there was just those day programs, and we're really lucky we got him in because usually it's a much longer wait. It could be like 1 or 2 years to get in. But for us, it was expedited because we put him in the hospital. Like we actually had to put him in, like as an inpatient in child psychiatry at the Children's for 4 days to get things moving because it was so hard to get anything to happen. And as far as the school, he's been moved around 4 schools plus the 2 years at the Jewish. And it's very destabilizing for him. He makes some friends, loses his friends, gets integrated in a school, gets moved out. It keeps happening because nobody can deal with him. And today I just got a call from the school board because like right now he's been home with the tutor and I'm homeschooling him at the homeschool center too. We got a call from school board, and you know what their solution was? They offered for me to put him back in one of the schools he'd already been in a special needs classroom that has only 2 children and an instructor. And I said, why would I want to do that? I mean, how is he needs to be with other people. He needs to be with other children. He needs to make friends, for one. So there's only 2 kids in the class. It doesn't sound like a very good environment for him socially. And also, why would I do that when actually, when he's with me at the homeschool center or wherever, I don't have these behavioral problems with him because I can handle him well. Which goes to show that if you know what you're doing, you wouldn't have this emergency where you have to put him in a class with one other kid. So you know what I actually said to them? This would be destabilizing. Again, he just got used to the tutor. And they were the ones who sent him home. He just got used to the tutor. Now they want to send him somewhere else. And after all the trauma he's had at school, that's going to be really hard to have him in a school environment. They're going to be dealing with behavioral issues. He's going to be freaking out. He's going to be like in a class with one other kid. I just think it's going to have a bad effect on him emotionally, psychologically. I don't think he can even be in school because they've done so much damage for the last 5 years. The JGH not included. So I told her, she said to me, if you don't put him in, we can't promise that the school board's going to continue to send the tutor. They're the ones who sent him home with the tutor. Now they're trying to take this away because they want me to send him to this other school. What for? And I said, instead of blackmailing me into a corner, maybe you should be considering that this whole experience has been very destabilizing and very traumatic for him because the school board has been unable to properly serve him because they didn't keep the deal on their end and because they failed him a grade when he didn't need to be failed, and they have demotivated him, demoralized him, and totally destroyed his trust. Maybe they should be, instead of blackmailing me, they should be hoping that I don't sue them. And I told them there's a class action lawsuit and I'm probably going to join it. And I said, there was so much negligence on your part that I think that you should make things right by now continuing to provide the tutor and not blackmailing me. Don't try to threaten me. Just do your job. Don't make it worse. I left her with that. I just said that, I don't know if that was going too far or that, how that comes across, but I'm so tired of this. And I just had to tell her how I really felt. And I'm probably going to try to join this class action lawsuit because I'm so sick and tired of this. And there are so many parents of kids with ASD that are in my situation. The schools are just not equipped. They don't know what they're doing. And it's so hard for us to get help and services. So that's it. I just want to let you know this is what's happening here in Quebec. And I'll keep you abreast. And if you have a kid who's in this situation, if you're in that situation, then you might want to look into this, maybe join in the lawsuit. That's it. Thanks for listening to me. Thanks for your support on Patreon. And thanks for giving me a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time.